popping up, hotels everywhere, is to lead students into that area. Okay, educator preparation. That is a program that is going to train students to become teachers. It will be dual enrolled as well, but study and data show that if we can prepare and grow our own teachers locally, they're more likely to stay here and have lives here and put themselves and their families here in this area. So that's a great program. I wished I'd had that one in college, in high school. Health service. Good news. We're leaving the health programs at all of the schools. We're not pulling those out. Y'all know we are a big health town. We have a lot of hospitals here. We're not going to disturb that basket cart because I'm afraid if we do, we might hurt our numbers in those programs specifically because they're all over the district. What we are going to do is to create a live health clinic in this center that will potentially, and I'm still in talks with a lot of the hospitals, that will run like a full-fledged health clinic that will be open to, sure if it'll be open to the public yet or not. Those are still decisions we're trying to make. However, students, after they finish our health science programs at the high schools, will be able to go work that health clinic their senior year. And along with that, we're going to have training in CNA, medical assisting, as well as EMT to keep them in that pathway as they're moving forward into their career in the future. All right, last but not least, law and public safety. We're going to put in a law and public safety class that's going to focus fire management side of things. If a student wants to become a firefighter, EMT, rescue, all of those kind of things, they could go into that law and public safety program. Ross Collins put in a law and public safety program this year that's focusing on law enforcement. So in the future, if we have a student that wants to go into law enforcement, they go to Ross Collins. If they want to go into fire management, fire safety, they go to us. And by the way, we're going to be opened up to potential Meridian students coming to our center, and we have slots that we're going to be keeping at Ross Collins. So programs that they don't have access to in our district, they will still have access to there, and Meridian doesn't have access, they'll be able to come to our center. But in full transparency, I want you to know that county students will get priority in our programs because that's going to be our center, okay? That's the same things that Ross Collins does now. Meridian High gets specific preference in those programs. We actually pay for slots, by the way. You may not know that. We pay for slots at Ross Collins for our students to go there. It's only fair that we help pay for the electricity bill, materials, all that kind of stuff. But in the future, when we have our own center, we'll trade those slots off. So we're not having to pay one entity or the other. We'll trade those slots, okay? All right, y'all, that's 14 to 15 months of planning and programming condensed down into about 30 minutes. And there's a lot more that I could tell you. I could tell you about work-based learning. I could tell you about all other manner of grants that we have coming down the pipe that is going to really marriage between secondary and post-secondary education. And by the way, I need to mention this. You say, Rob, how can you do so much work with post-secondary education? Funny thing is, my wife's sitting right over there as a dean of workforce education, and I tell folks I have to marry the person at the community college to make all. And so we have been working together for years, creating, by the way, one of the best dual credit scenarios in the state of Mississippi. When I was at Ross Collins, the automotive program is half an associate's degree before you graduate high school. Every program is laced with dual credit, and while I was there, I told her, I said, if you do it for Meridian High School and Ross Collins, we're going to do it for the county too, because we're in this thing together, and our programs in the county do currently have dual credit attached to them as well. But we've taken that initiative as far as we can take, and with this model and this center, we'll be able to take it to the next level and create much more opportunities for our students. We all, as I end my little talk here, I just want to tell you this. Thank you, first of all. And we wouldn't be able to do this and create these opportunities for these students without your help. And I want you to think about that as we move forward into this election that we're having. It is important. And I'm not going to say this is a one-time shot, because it may not be. It's going to be a one-time shot for me because I'm 28 years in my career and I'm ready to retire. But I am vested in seeing this through, whatever it takes. We already have a building. We've got money still in the bank left over from that appropriation that Dr. Kane has told you about. But the bottom line, the question is, can we afford to let our workforce continue to slide as we're going, just continue to do things, move our current programs that we have, or do we need to go ahead and give ourselves a shot in the arm and get our workforce developed as quickly and as soon as possible? So that's a question I want you to kind of leave with in your mind as we proceed on tonight. Okay? Dr. King?
Thank you, Rob. He talked, I want two more additional points. He talked about dual credit being laced with these programs. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you would, if you're okay with how many of you were your first generation of your family or the first to go to college out of your family? Anybody? We have a lot of first generation students. And one of the things that we have found in talking to students and into families is the divide that exists sometimes between first generational students who think they want to go to college, think they want to do more, but their families don't understand the process. Sometimes they're intimidated by that whole organization about what's the next steps they need to take, or, well, that's just something else. That's another hurdle I've got to get over. And a lot of times, instead of trying to figure it out, they'll just go to work. And for some, that works out fine. But sometimes that divide keeps students from trying to move on. With the dual credit enlaced in these programs, what Rob talked about was a lot of times they'll come out with almost a half an associate degree, or nearly an entire associate degree. They'll already be plugged into Meridian Community College. They'll already have their transcripts. They'll already have all their information. And it goes back to what Rob's talking about, is this seamless transition from high school to college. That many more students that we're able to capture with certification and breaking through what is known as the paper ceiling, which is, you know, if you don't have a certain degree, you can't get this job, or if you're really good in this technical skill, but you don't have this certification or this degree, well, you're not eligible for a management position, or wherever the case may be. But those exist. So I wanted to tie that back into the dual credit component. That is something I'm experiencing in my own home right now. I had a senior that graduated this past year. She went into the HOSA program her 10th grade year. 10th grade year, she was kind of exploring. She really excelled in it. The 11th grade year, she was a state winner in competition. And then all through her 12th grade year, she understood that she wanted to go into healthcare. She wanted to go to be a nurse. And she's enrolled at the University of Southern Mississippi now. And as she met with her academic advisors just a few days ago, she calls home and says, "Daddy, hey, I'm going to be able to skip anywhere from a semester to an entire year of college because of the dual credit hours she was able to obtain in these programs." If you haven't priced out four-year universities, I think it's about $26,000 a year if you're living on campus. So that transitions into some numbers and translates, I hope. I want to segue into what we wanted to talk about, and then again, we'll have a Q&A time. Again, we want to answer those questions, but I want to talk about the updates that you're owed here at Clarkdale. Just the other night, we had Mr. Robertson came and addressed our board and conveyed some concerns that he shared on behalf of many parents at Clarkdale. And so I want to guide into some of the things that we've done. The lack of update, as he said, is, you know, it creates perception. And without the realities, or without being told what's happening and what's going on, then that perception can become reality, as we discussed, and then there can become negativity in that. And we want to really kind of address what has happened And so I'm going to go through a few things, and then I know there's a couple pointed issues that we really want to discuss, but I want to talk about some of the things that have happened at Clarkdale, some of the updates that we've been able to put forward, and some of those investments. As we talked about the tornado in April of 2022, we had two of them, 2 weeks apart. It was a tough time. We lost our softball facility, and I'm a softball dad. I get it. I know Philip Mosley gets it. I know that those girls get it. But we've got going. And the board had made a decision that we were not just going to repair, we were not just going to bring it back to probably what Coach Robertson had built once upon a time. We were going to bring it above and beyond to make it better and to put it on par with what we had done in other places around the county. Architect, we opened bids on that. Softball facility came in at $1.9 million. That project's on track, according to the architect, to be going by January 15 to January 17, just prior to this upcoming season. I'm happy for those girls. I'm happy for Coach Grant. And I'm definitely happy for this community and the softball facility. Baseball wasn't unscathed either, Coach. Had to repair our grandstands that were damaged just before playoffs. We had that happen. So we repaired our grandstands. We didn't just repair one, we repaired two. Even though one was damaged, we strengthened both. Our baseball weight room roof was destroyed. We put a brand new roof on our baseball weight room. The HVAC system that you see just above your head, Clarkdale was the first out of 6 gyms in our county to secure that. The 300 building. This is the building that you see out by the road that, unfortunately, you have to see every day. Every day. Let's talk about where we are on that. The buildings were constructed, I believe, 70s, and don't quote me on that. But we got damaged in 2022. The south end, the roof there, compromised. There was a discussion immediately with the current administration here at the time. Dr. McHenry, she really guided us through some dark times. I wish her well in retirement. Reach out to your teachers. We've got a couple options. One, we can try to find some way to get you guys to stay on campus and finish the school year, and we'll see. Two, we could possibly reach out to the local churches and find out if they would let us use some of their classroom space to finish the year out. She comes back and says, Dr. Kane, our people want to stay here. Yes, ma'am, we'll do everything we can do to try to make it. We'll see. We didn't know what the next few weeks would be. We didn't know what the next few months would be. And obviously we didn't know we'd be sitting here at 18 months. We got through that process initially, trying to get everybody. You got to get insurance. You've got to get your consultants. You got to get all these people at the same place, the same time. You got to get engineers. You're trying to get all these people there to figure out what's your next move. The next move was try to have school the next week, which we were able to do. But then also to make sure that our facilities were secure and safe, which we did with the help of the architect and structural engineers. Perfect? Absolutely not. ideal, not even close. Triage, essentially. So when we first had the conversations with insurance, it was, okay, well, you got damage on this end of the roof, let's repair this end of the roof. Wait a minute. And Odie, me and you talked about this a lot. I said, Odie, what do you think the damage is down there? And they gave estimates, and I'm not faulting Odie, but he knows what those numbers were. But we were trying to decide, okay, what level is the damage here? And the numbers we initially got back, I didn't believe it. So no way that's going to repair what we got to repair. So then it was reach out to a professional that dealt with insurance and tried to make sure that they weren't trying to pull one over on us. We wanted to make sure that we had all the resources we need to make Clarkdale whole. That is the grinding process. Because at the end of the day, the initial conversation was just to repair it. Let's fix the roof. But that wasn't good enough. That was not good enough. Because what are you going to repair it to? You going to repair it to 1970 standards? Are you going to repair it to 1970 code? That's all they were prepared to do. So then it comes down, no, that's not good enough. It's not going to survive in time. It's not something that we want to have to be there for a permanent structure. And so then we went on and we've been in this back and forth, and finally we said, you know, this building has to come up to at least 2018 code standard. I'm not an insurance agent, I'm not an adjuster, I don't know all that, but I can tell you 2018 is the code that we say you've got to repair this building up to. 1970, 2018. And that's what our policy says, that's what our consultant says, and that's what we dug our heels in on to make sure that we would get. At that same meeting we had the other night, architect has completed those plans for the 300 building. Presented what was probably a 98% complete plan. There were still some dates and things, but he wanted to make sure that we knew where we were in the process. And he informed the board and the public that was in attendance that that would be going out probably for advertisement, I believe this Saturday's paper. But we'd be open for bids October 31st on the 300 building. That's the date provided by the architect last week. He also, I believe, gave a 240-day window on that project. Guys, I'm not an architect. I know lead times are hard to predict. But if a contractor says they're going to finish it in 240 days, and they don't, there's damages. So we're shooting for that date, and that's what he gave us the other night at the board meeting. And that's the update on 300. And there's some more updates. I'm coming. There's been some concerns about plumbing at Clarkdale. Actually, there's been concerns about plumbing everywhere, but we're here to talk about Clarkdale. We recently contracted with a private third party to perform a sewage inspection of Clarkdale to see if there's anything that we can identify in the plumbing system itself that is causing constriction, if there's crack, broken pipe, anything out to the lagoon area. Does that fix it? No. It helps identify it, and we can try to be proactive instead of having where we're having to send out our crews to fix. But repairs are constant in the district. We've got schools all over this county that are 50, 50, 60, and 70 years old. We try to keep 2 plumbers. We try. But just this week, one informed us that he was leaving to take another job for an additional $10 an hour than what we could pay him. It's constant. There's been some concerns about the lagoon. Someone asked about the lagoon. We've got lagoons at our campuses. We contract with a private contractor here in town. He does a lot of lagoon work in Lauderdale County. He has to report those reports to Mississippi Department of MDEQ, also the Health Department. Those inspections are done and submitted annually for review and for certification. We have to do that. We've been doing that. There was pictures circulating about a restroom. We had a restroom issue. That wasn't up to standard. Shouldn't have been left the way it was. We had put money back this past summer for a bathroom remodel, and we painted, we did upgrades to the bathroom, but the petitions that we ordered back in May were back ordered. Like so many things that we order, they were back ordered. Happy to report they arrived this week. They came in this week, so I'm hoping that we can get those installed as soon as possible. Indoor air quality. It's been talk about, well, what are y'all doing about air? What about the indoor air quality? And I want to talk about a couple things. One recently was the 1,200 modular building. You probably heard something about that. So the 1,200 modular building is our permanent modular building that we were able to secure some years ago. It's right there by the gym, or the all-purpose gym that we got. Sometime early when school started, it was brought to our attention that there was mold and mildew in that classroom. So there was some spotted on books, the ceiling, doorway, the unit itself. So our director of operations speaks with the administration and says, hey, let's be sure we get those students out of there at this time until we get it tested, and let's get it mitigated. Administration worked with us. They were able to relocate our students to various areas. We put them where they've remained up until this time as we mitigate. Now, what does mitigate mean? Well, first it means we perform tests to see what do we got. Then we have tests that say, yeah, you've got something. So then we call in the professionals, call in SERPRO. That's what they do. You know, we hope they make it like it never even happened. That's a plug for SERPRO there, Odie. They come in and they mitigate and they do what they do. In addition to that, we had our people come in and scrape the ceilings, replaster, repaint, whatever they did that in that facility. So we brought in the professionals to mitigate on a mold mildew issue level. Then we brought in our people to make sure it's paint, fresh, clean. And then we looked at all the other recommendations from the testing company that was hired. The other one said that make sure you don't have any leaks. We looked and looked and looked. We could not identify any leaks in that building. So the determination was there were no leaks in this particular building. Then it said, well, be sure you check your ground for saturation or any evaporation that may be coming up through the floor. So then there was Visqueen that was applied underneath to try to catch that moisture content as it moves up, to try to help if there was any moisture coming up from the building. Then they said put dehumidifiers in it. We've got dehumidifiers. Then they said, up your filtration system. What about the best filtration system we could? And we put in there. Sell them downtown. They'll tell you all about them. They really are top of the line. We call them NASA machines because the technology was developed by NASA. And so what we did was we had another test come, and we said, test this out for us. Well, when we did our second test, the air still wasn't where we wanted it. Acceptable, but not where we wanted it. So their recommendation was to continue to let the air purification do its thing, make sure things are aired out appropriately, and we'll come back and do another test. And that's coming up Monday, I think. Maybe tomorrow. Point is, once it came to our attention, once it was identified, student staff were removed, the mitigation process starts. Students have not been returned until we feel good about what we're returning to. That's the mitigation process. Roofs. We replaced all the roofs at Clarkdale. All your shingle roofs have been replaced, again, as an impact of the storm. The remaining building that does not have a new roof is the 200 building, and obviously the 300 building. But we have new roofs on all of our buildings as well. The 200 building will be replaced with the 300 building. The 600 building, which is the building that runs parallel with the road to the ball field, you see those elementary classrooms up on the left, up on that hill, all of those are going to have new windows, new low-E energy efficiency windows installed in the second phase of a window door project that's on tap. Security upgrades over the last few years. This past summer, we budgeted to install a whole entire new key system at Clarkdale. We installed 3 automated fences, so hopefully gates don't get left open. Fences that allow transportation or vehicles to arrive are automated. They have to get clearance through the office before coming in. You've been upgraded with 60 security cameras on the campus. The intercom system here, like at other places, has reached the end of its life. It's functioning, but it's the repair process that becomes time-consuming because the product is old. You've got 2 systems that are trying to work together. It causes problems. So, we're going to do what we can, and we'll get it right. There's a sequel system, I believe, that is going in, the modulars, changing that system out. That'll be a new system that goes into 300 as well, and then the rest of the campus will be converted to that. Bus radios. Installing bus radios on your buses. In Lauderdale County, obviously, we have a lot of issues, what we call phone deserts or things, and a lot of times it depends on what carrier you're using and where you are. But to help maintain communication with our buses, we're going to have those radios for our drivers. I can tell you as a building level administrator, if a mother comes in and says, I was supposed to pick my child up, they usually ride so-and-so's bus, and you're scrambling to try to help comfort that mother of where their child is. Being able to get in touch with those bus drivers can help tremendously. Or if we have a student who's having a medical issue at a location, which we've had, seizures, or an allergic reaction to something on the bus that someone has sprayed, we're able to locate them. Those buses also will feature GPS. Again, if there are no comms, we are able to find location. Three new buses purchased for Clarkdale. Band department has been updated with renovations. We've also told our bands here and at Southeast, some of their uniforms are over 20-something years old. And we said, you need new uniforms, and they are costly. Instruments for band. One of the, another issue that we've had down here recently is traffic. Going in and out of, and it's been an issue for a long time. Typically, if you have schools, traffic is going to be an issue. Working with, talked with Senator Tate today, talked about working with MDOT to do an analysis to see if there is some type of way that we can look at a turning lane or a light out here, especially since they're going to pave what I've read out here on the highway or resurface. And again, to try to get people in and out safely. Those are some updates that I know that you were due. Some of them you may have been aware of, and maybe some that you were not. But I did want you to hear those and what we were doing. Those are cards on the table. So I know we've got questions, some maybe about programs, some maybe about facilities, some maybe about the election. And as we indicated, we want to try to answer those questions, whether it be myself or Mr. Smith. And so we're going to allow you at this time to, if you do have a question, if you would, I think we've got a podium and a mic set up there. And we're going to allow you to come up and ask a question. Again, if we don't know the answer, we'll definitely try to get it for you. But I do welcome you. I see a couple of familiar faces, so I do want to open it up for questions.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Let me just preface what I'm about to ask. I have a lot more questions, and this won't be the first time that I'll be at any kind of meeting. I intend to be at several board meetings in the future because I do have a first grader here. My biggest imminent concern at the moment is voting day. Not just here at Clarkdale, at all of the campuses. Because I want to know who is going to be on campus making sure that nobody is walking to our children's classrooms, wandering to look for a bathroom. I work with the University of Mississippi, and I work for the Child Safe Center with children that have been abused, and it takes a matter of a split second. My husband works with security companies. I know several retired military. So that is my biggest concern at this point in time.
Sure. And I think everybody heard the question about voting day and security and safeguards and what can we assure and what we cannot assure. School leaders, teachers, we all every day understand we can never guarantee your child 100% safety. On any day. Let's be respectful, please. I just want to answer the question. Yeah. So we have safety protocols in place. We've met with the Lauderdale County Sheriff's Department, discussed what we can do, what we feel is the right thing to do. We'll have signage, we'll have additional direction of where we need to go, where we ask people to go, where they are able to go, where they're not able to go that day.
What are the plans? What in are you doing? That's, I think, the question specifically.
And how can we be
I'm not inviting the
assured?
outside world here.
How can we be assured that people who don't follow directions are going to be redirected and.
Sure.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sheet of paper that is put on the wall.
Yeah. We host events all the time. We host Grandparent Day. We host athletic events right here in this gym. We don't necessarily know who they are. We host football games of 2,000 people.
I have a big husband that I worry about. And I have 3 children here, 3. And it is your job.
Yeah, absolutely, every day, every day, every day.
And when they come for grandparents,
So we
they
need
just
a
come
specific.
in, or they go to the office and get a bag.
They're invited.
So we'll have strict parking out front the day of the voting. We'll have those individuals guided to where the voting will be at the library. We'll have personnel placed. Anything that's out of place, every individual will have a radio and a comm to notify who they need to notify if anything looks out of place or people don't follow directions.
So one-on-one, you're going to escort voters?
No, ma'am. Our intercom system does work.
No, it does not. Not the trailer.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not.
Okay. Go ahead, Tommy.
All right, I've got something. The question before me, I asked at Southeast, and I requested a virtual day. So you've decided not to do a virtual day on the voting day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no virtual day. I got today confirmation from Kyle Kilpatrick, who is Assistant Secretary of State of Mississippi, and he confirmed that a registered sex offender can come to vote on the day of the election. He said, voting, you've invited them here by setting the schools as a polling place. They're eligible to vote, and you can't keep them from voting. That 500 foot away from the school they're supposed to be, you trumped it with having the polls here. And so I think that's you need to reconsider and have it a virtual day, and everybody's happy. And I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. Is there a reason? Is there a reason? Is there a reason not to have a virtual day?
Or the fire station. Let's bring them from our campus.
Well, but it's not just our campus, it's the entire county.
Is there a reason?
Grandparents Day doesn't allow sex offenders here.
So the state law situation on any normal school day allows a sex offender to arrive to campus if notice is provided. That's state law. Secondly, about the virtual day. When we came out of COVID, we had virtual days every Wednesday. The following year, we reduced that to once a month. The following year, we reduced it to once in 9 weeks. This time, we've reverted it down to 2 days for the entire school year, largely in part of the feedback that we got from parents, because parents were having to bear the burden of additional cost for childcare. And so anytime that we do have a virtual day, we have to make sure that that's one of the lenses that we filtered, is how many of those with young children are we going to place an additional financial burden on for them to have childcare that day?
We can find people that want children.
You got anything else, Tom?
Okay, since we're going to be, it looks like everybody's going to be here, is that dedicated parking for the voters?
I'm sorry, one more
Is there
time?
going to be dedicated parking for the voters?
Yes, sir. It'll be right out.
Every campus will have a dedicated parking.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I want to make sure that on the parking component, this week, I've asked us to kind of do a 100-foot view, or almost like a Google Earth view of the parking lot of the campus. We'll put that on our website about where that parking will be designated. We'll have an arrow going to where we vote, and probably a gold star where the poll will actually be. So that will be listed online, provided. And we will have obviously signage. The Election Commission has come out. They reviewed each polling location. They came out a couple weeks ago and mapped out where they were going to have things and place things, and they will be putting people and signage in the appropriate area to help guide and direct. That's Ms. Cook.
Okay, first I want to say that I think it is extremely disingenuous because you owed the people of Clarkdale, the students and the parents, this one-on-one time before now, before you're trying to sell them on something. I just want to be very frank in my opinion of what that felt like, and I'm not even a student or a parent. The next thing that I want to say is that there were two words that I noticed you both used when talking, and that was organic and transparent. And as I'm sitting there and I'm listening to you use those words, I think that most people think that this hasn't been transparent and that the information trickles out very slowly. It's almost like sometimes I wonder, do you not believe that we have the capacity to understand the big vision? I do. All the people in this room do. So when you're not transparent, it just leads to speculation. So just in the future, when you're presenting something that you want us to buy off on, total transparency is giving us the interest survey that you gave the students to poll them to get the 130 that want culinary. Like, post that on the website. I mentioned it during the Southeast meeting, and I still have not seen anything about it, okay? Also, I'm wondering, you're starting to use the terms Accelerate Mississippi now, and you're using the Twin Districts workforce development language now. You didn't in the previous meeting, and it's still not on the website. And I feel like you owe it to everyone to explain the funding that is coming into this and who will have oversight control of the programming, because when you use that word organic, if you were to get on Facebook right now and you were to type in CTE Center or CTE Bond, this type of initiative is going on in every state across the country, from North Dakota to Rhode Island to Texas. How can that be organic? Organic to me is you come up with an idea and no one else has it. When I listened to you talk about career pathways, I found that an act, I think it's the CTE Excellence or Integration Act, it says that they're going to start using, instead of track, career pathway. And y'all are using the same word. So did you come up with that word organically? Or are there initiatives and acts that the federal government has put in place in which you are being influenced by those, and to what degree? I've spent over 20 hours looking at Senate Bill 3011, which has the $8 million for the initial construction. I've been looking at all these bills and acts, and it keeps me coming back to, this cannot be organic, in which just you two developed it, and the same programs that are on that board that you want are on all of these other published documents as well. We want to know that when you're advocating for the kids here locally, that we're really looking locally. And I have to say, I laughed when you said your plumber is leaving for getting $10 an hour more somewhere else, and you're talking about middle-skilled workers. I mean, I don't understand that. And so I want right now for you to explain which agency, whether that be state or federal or a combination of both, in which you are deriving this programming from. I would like to know that. And the other thing, I forgot my other question. Hold on, give me 1 second. Okay, yes, I was watching a video about CTE, Perkins 5, and in the state of California, they were really excited about the funding that they were going to get. And they were talking about, they hadn't had their plan approved yet because it was open for public opinion and public comment. Because apparently in Perkins 5, the negotiations that I guess were in Perkins 4 have been removed. Okay, so the state of California and this representative, this lady that was speaking on behalf of one of the school districts there, said, we were under the impression that we were going to have more autonomy over the performance standards of the students. And she said that their plan hadn't been approved yet, so they don't know what the performance standards are. Okay, well, is this something similar? Because I'm not an attorney and I'm not an educator, but when I go on the state of Mississippi's Accelerate Mississippi website and I look at the Mississippi WIOA plan, it's in draft. So are any of these performance standards coming from that, and have they been agreed to? Because when you're trying to sell everybody on this about how great it's going to be for the future of our youth here, we need to know those details. You're asking us to buy off an additional $12 million, and from everything that I have found, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it all seems subject to change. I mean, the $8 million you've secured for that building, and that's great. But in my personal opinion, before you come asking us for additional money, shouldn't we get some hard line facts about this? Because if our schools are in the state that they're in, you said 1970s, right? And we give, our hard-earned tax dollars to this program, and then this plumbing issue starts coming up, and you need to come to us with more. Well, frankly, even though I'm, not in the Clarkdale School District, I would rather pay for repairs directly for their school and know that there was autonomy over my tax dollars. I don't want to lose that. No one wants to lose that. We can't change the price of groceries. We can't change the gas price. We can't change inflation. But we can change how our tax dollars are spent here at home. And I think that's what a lot of people are concerned about. And when you talk about the middle skilled, I don't know, when you have aviation up here, I care about these kids that are lost in the gap and they're in a cycle of poverty. I have a real heart for those kids. But when I look at some of your plans and I see, I don't see them. I don't see them represented. So yeah, my main question, I can't remember the other one. I thought maybe after I talked for a while, the other one would come to me, but I'll be at the next meeting, so maybe I'll think of it then. But if you could just explain the relationship from the agency in which you are kind of held to with the programming, if you could explain the relationship, what is the entity, state or federal?
So, as I said at the beginning, these programs are a result of conversations, local industry, Twin Districts workforce development data, which is local and specific to our area. And by the way, you can go there. There's a 310-page document that you can go through, and you can look and see if some of this reflects some of that information. It's not easy just to willy-nilly pick a curriculum out of the air. There's a lot of things that have to go into actually picking and choosing a program. The only one that's on this list that there's not even a curriculum for yet is aviation. And the research has been done on it. The research and curriculum unit at Mississippi State is doing that research as we speak. And potentially by the time our center is done, that curriculum will be there. Now, why do you have to choose? Came up about, other states are doing the same thing. It's not organic. Well, on our level, it is our job to be a little more generic, so to speak, to get students into these pathways and get them going. And it's the job on the post-secondary side to be more specific in some of those training courses. So we can't. The other thing about our curriculum is our teacher budget is tied to that curriculum as well. So the funding of our teachers comes from that particular curriculum. My salary is 100% reimbursed by the state of Mississippi. It does not come from local funds. A teacher's salary in CTE comes half from the district, half from the state, half from MAEP. So it comes down to a funding issue too when it comes to selecting curriculum. If we wanted to just go out there and just pick something, we could, but we would have to fund all of that, teacher salary and everything, and it would not come from the state CTE department. So there are curriculum that we have to abide by. Does it sound a little generic in some ways? Possibly, but that's just what we have to deal with. Now, that doesn't mean that we put in a generic curriculum. If Lockheed Martin needs them to pop rivets in that advanced manufacturing class, we will specifically cater to that need, and that opportunity is there. If Auto Kineton needs us to do some process in PLC, we can do specifically what they need. And that's one reason why Yokohama plant landed in West Point when I was there. We completely restructured to be able to fit the needs of that plant and their workers when they were coming in. And we do have that autonomy. Organic, for a plan, we have to put something down. Have to figure out what our plan is moving forward. Later on, when we get into these programs and we get industry that comes in that needs to be more specific, we can be that at that point, okay? So maybe that helps explain some of the curriculum part side of it.
Okay, I think this is wonderful, and I think we need it, and, what I don't know is, how much is it gonna take our taxes up? And how many years is it gonna take of us paying the higher taxes to get this done? And when we get it done, are y'all gonna drop our taxes back down? Because me and my husband, we're retired, we're on a budgeted income, and we can't, you can't get blood out of a turnip.
A fixed income, like many of our residents.
Right.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what I heard.
Right.
Is that right?
We're old.
Yeah. So she asked about taxes and how it would impact. What we have done is on our website, we have provided a tax diagram or image and a link. The link, so we don't misspeak, but that link ties you to the tax assessor's office. You can plug in your particular property, and they will be able to, you would be able to just about calculate what the impact would be to you. I've got some rough numbers I can give you estimates.
This WW Lauderdale?
Yes, ma'am.
I can find it on there, okay.
You can, if you can go here and then you can look, there's on the left-hand side, there's tax impact, I believe it's what we've got it listed as. You click on that and it's got the same image there that will break it down for you by home and car tag. And then what the estimated millage that we see being able to move this. So,
do we have any idea of?
Sure.
We talking 5 years, 10?
Yes, ma'am. We're talking 15 to 20 years.
15 to 20. So
yes, ma'am. So let's just say you have a home that is valued at $100,000 at the tax office. That's by the tax, not what you could sell it for, but what the tax office has it on. Let's say you have a $100,000 home, which means the assessed would be $10,000, right? All right, so then you would take the 0.0315 number and multiply that, and that would give you a rough estimate of what your tax obligation would be, which would be $31.50 per year. And then we even break it down by month, what that would look like, which would be somewhere about $4. Yeah. Now, what you need to understand is, at least this was something that I had to look at for myself, because I looked for myself. But as assessed values go up, and we've seen them do.
Taxes go up.
That's right. Assessed values go up, then your commitment and obligation, or each taxpayer's obligation goes down. Your tag price typically depreciates annually because the value of your car depreciates annually. So that's when you go and you get the taxes seem to be lower on your tag. And obviously, we can thank our legislature too for the tax car tag credit that also provides an additional break on your car tax. So there's two main things there, and then obviously, if you have land, you'll have to consider that as well. But that calculator can help. And I would obviously tell you to reach out to the tax assessor to get specific numbers.
Okay. Also, one other question. This money's that's going to be going for this CTE, and is it going to be untouchable for anything else? You can guarantee me that? Because, you know, they guaranteed us Social Security one time was a lockbox and it was untouchable. You know?
And I got into education thinking my PERS retirement was going to be untouched, but it comes up. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a PERS retirement.
Let me address this. The bond is written by an attorney. It is copied from the state statute. Putting us on record. This money will go toward the CTE expansion project. That's it.
Bond's not written that way.
Is it not written that? I have heard.
Spend that money any way you want to, according to the way you go past this bond issue now. Be honest about it.
I had heard that. That's why I asked the question.
And I want to readdress it again. But this is, you have to understand, I understand, but this is separate monies. We get monies from the state, annually to operate. You've seen it and read about it, the Mississippi Adequate Education Program. That funds our schools annually, in addition to federal monies and local money contribution from ad valorem. And then any monies that come off of leases. And then any grants that all people write and are able to secure. That's the monies that we have to operate. So the annual procurement that we get from the state is to operate. It's to operate. And then you've seen recently in the paper that the additional 3 mil levy on there on the debt side, that takes care of buses, roofs, parking lots, capital projects that you have to try to get done. So to really answer your point, and I sincerely mean this because the board discussion was very pertinent. We didn't want any other language in there but CTE. The attorney wrote the bond, sir, not me, but
The bond passed, it's the way it's gonna be.
but it's not the way it's going to be spent.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I am saying that. It's not the way it's going to be spent because at the end of the day, every dollar that we spend, every single cent gets audited by Mr. Shad White. And if we say we're spending it to this, he's going to come in, he says, show me the money, show me the receipt, show me where it was spent.
But once that bond issue passes, you can spend it the way that bond issue says, and Shad White and his entire army cannot get you to do it.
And I understand your cynicism. I get it. You've been bonds, and the cynicism will go with it because there have been bonds passed by different government organizations in this county, and you have had little say on what it was spent on. It's been put on the tax levy for years, some of it announced, some of it not, and you had little to no say on how it was spent. I get it. Our commitment and what this board says and what I say,
What did you say on the radio about making changes at different schools with this?
yeah, yes. Yes, this is a part of the CTE project. Thank you for bringing it up. Yes, sir. He said, what other place is this spent? Particularly at Clarkdale with ag and health science, that's right. So we've got an old workshop here on the Clarkdale campus. We've got a phenomenal teacher there. But this is one of those moves where this is one of the programs that will leave the Clarkdale campus and go to the center. So now what we have is a vacated shop area or a room or classroom. If we talk with our administrators, I tell you, we need space. Our health sciences program that we're leaving here is packed to the gills. And so what we want to do is expand that out of the normal classroom and move the health science into this refurbed area. There'll be a little money used to refurb that classroom. The same will be so at Northeast in a classroom where we move a program from Northeast to this center. The same will be so at Southeast where we move a program from Southeast to this center. So there are some classrooms that have to be refurbed, to be repurposed, to be used to serve additional CTE programs that remain on the campus.
Now, also,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, did I hear on the news where SCUBA is, East Mississippi Community College is also doing a CTE?
Yes, they've been a part of the conversation as well. This is EMCC? Yes.
Now, my question is, and I forget exactly how many millions of dollars they said that it's going to take for them to do this, and they're having to start from the ground up on building the building and all. That was my understanding.
It's Scuba? Is that what you're?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. How come this one's going to cost so much more? And we got to build it.
I wasn't aware of a building at Scuba.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to build the building.
Right, right. I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that. That's my first news hearing that.
I mean, you know, that was my first question when I heard about theirs and how much it was going to cost. And I'm scratching my head going, okay, we got 8 million and they're wanting 12 more million. That's more than double what Scuba's going to use, and they're having to build the whole building.
Right, and you may not realize how big this building is. This thing is 60,000 square
Well, I
feet.
didn't hear how big there was, but I assume that it's going to be significant.
It'll be significant.
Right.
Right. But ours is,
more than double significant. I mean,
well, ours boils
ours
down to
is gonna be-
$315 a square foot in commercial construction, and that's very reasonable by today's standards. If you break it down per square feet. I don't know what their square footage is, but the reason we're saving so much money is that we already have an existing building that we're able to save a lot of money by
So
doing
we're
that.
saving money from the
Absolutely.
$20 million?
If we built it from the ground up, it would be twice that cost.
I would like to know the square footage of theirs, and I'll have to go and,
60,000 square feet.
huh?
60,000 square feet.
Theirs is going to be 60,000?
Oh, theirs, I don't even know about theirs.
Ours is going to be
yes,
60,000
yes,
square
ma'am.
feet.
Mhm.
Well, see, I just kind of scratched my head and I said, how come they're building one from the ground up? You know, they don't even have a building.
Mm-hmm.
And ours is going to cost more than twice as much as what they were.
I'll investigate that.
Huh?
I'll investigate what they're doing. I don't even know
Thank you.
what they're doing there. Thank you. Yeah.
I have one more thing concerning the tax. I have to disagree with you about when reappraisement happens, my taxes always go up. Don't matter which side of the multiplication factor you increase, and mine's never gone down, it's always gone up, and it costs more, so I don't understand your statement about your taxes will go down after reappraisement.
My understanding, if there's, requires if the appraised value goes up and we're collecting on a mill value, then,
Unless they lower the millage, you pay more dollars. Okay, it always goes up when the reappraisement.
Okay.
And y'all have done a great job of spending it where it's only going up this amount, okay? My problem is how much we pay now. I don't know how many people here know, but in Lauderdale County, we pay 118.7 mills to our county and city and our school government right now. And if this passes, it'll go to over 120 mills. And that's a lot of money. And that's going to be, like you say, 15, 20 years. And I've never had my taxes go down, ever. I mean, even if things run out, like City of Meridian not long ago, they passed a $34 million bond issue because the other one had run out and they just couldn't stand it not having the money, so they passed another one. And but anyway, they didn't want the taxes to go down. It's just like you got it and they don't want to do away with it. But my deal is 118.7 now is a lot of money, and you get a lot coming in. It's really kind of interesting that it takes 58 mills to run the county schools and only takes 60.7 to run the rest of the county government. I thought that was kind of interesting to me, that 4 campuses takes that amount of money, but I guess it does. But anyway, it's how much it is now is the issue, not what it's going up. Thank you.
I want to go back to the millage just for a minute, and I want to go back to the MAEP formula, which determines how much money school districts get in the state of Mississippi. For the last 20 years, the Mississippi Adequate Education Program has been funded fully one time. So as the law was written, it's been funded one time. On average, the Lauderdale County School District receives $2 to $3 million a year less than the law requires annually. So if you compound that over 20 years, we're talking between $50 and $60 million that the law states that the Lauderdale County School District should have received under MAEP that we have not. So my question is, when the state cuts revenue, where do we think they expect it to be made up from?
They don't make their own money, so it's our money.
But we would like to have a voice into what it goes to and where it's going. Because right now, my money ain't going to those buildings up there.
We're not fixing what's broken.
No, we're not.
So why would we vote for something?
Which, we are fixing these buildings.
Well, did that come up at the time when this come up, so y'all heard some static time?
No, these are two different scenarios. We've been working on this. We've been working through this. Tried to work through this.
But you just said you have 2 plumbers that can't keep up with 4 districts, 4 campuses, but how do you know you'll be able to keep up with this?
You
On
come
top of
about
us?
this in 13 months, but you've had 18 months to figure out the school situation.
Yeah, so the 18 months is trying to get what we think's right. And now we're there.
But y'all spent all this time, I mean, if y'all held off on this for a little while, y'all might could have gotten school.
I wish if it was totally up to us and only in our court, we would have. Yes, ma'am.
I think I speak for a lot of people in this room. I just want to make sure, and well, first, I emailed you the other day, and I told you I'd be here with all my questions, so I have a slew of them. But I think I want to make sure that everybody knows that we don't have complaints about the staff. When we speak of security issues and security concerns, my concern is not that Ms. Culpepper, my baby's preschool teacher, can't keep my daughter safe, or that Mr. Jordan isn't going to do what he can to keep my daughter safe. My issue is that I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. We have 84 schools. Every school in Knoxville, Tennessee, you have to be buzzed in the front door. You don't gain access. And the very first day that I walked onto this campus to bring my daughter, I had questions because I walked through a gate and I had to walk past, I don't know how many classrooms before I got to the office. I walked past my daughter's preschool playground every single time I walked to the office. In fact, she waves at me as I go on by. I can't understand why it isn't more of an issue that the 300 building hasn't been prioritized when that's the security of our campus. That's what stops people from coming through. Because we can say all day long, oh, go to the office when you check in. I'm gonna follow that rule. We're gonna follow that rule. But people with ill intent, are they? Or are they gonna go do what they wanna do on the campus?
I think the safety priority is echoed. We invested almost $1 million in that 300 building just before the tornado took it out. because we understood we wanted a single point of entry, just like you say. We wanted students and visitors to be buzzed in. It was the ideal situation. I mean, we updated it tremendously, put an office in there, we had one way in, one way out. That was the vision that we had. And then unfortunately, in April 2022, it got taken away from us.
Yep. But that's where our concern comes in, I believe. It's not that, okay, yeah, if we had a secure building where voters could go in, at my old school in high school, we had votes held there before it was deemed illegal because it was not safe for students in Tennessee. But before that, we had elections there, but they came into the office building, they checked in, they voted, and they left. They never gained access to our campus or the gym or wherever. They never gained access. My issue is, on that day, I don't have to worry about my child being excused, but we're being told that we need to write a parent note and use one of our excuses to keep our child out of school that day, right? That doesn't make sense. That's not fair for our concern for our kids when we already have an unsecure campus. I was even afraid to voice my concerns about the unsecure campus because who knows who's watching any live feed, right? We shouldn't have to be thinking about that while we're at work and at school and wherever, and our children are supposed to be safe. And we don't pay our staff members near enough to have to worry about their safety and our children and all of these 8,000 voters that are fixing to come through the doors. It just doesn't make sense.
And we're blessed to have a sheriff's department who has worked with us and continue to work with us in partnering. A lot of school districts don't have the luxury of having an armed deputy on campus. We have one at each one of our campuses in Lauderdale County. And as I've mentioned, we've had discussions with the sheriff's department about the way we want things to move that day. We had a conversation with our administration about where we want people placed. We've got two-way radio systems in place that if we see something that needs to have additional attention or people are addressed, that we can intervene. I get that. It's a concern we have every day at every campus. And I don't mean to lower your concern here at all.
It's a big concern.
But we invested millions in trying to upgrade safety on our campuses continuously. We filed for a $500,000 COPS grant last year that we got, and we're still rolling those issues out. We've applied for another $500,000 grant to continue to upgrade security on the campuses. It's ongoing. It's never finite. It's never done. You have to continue to say, and you have to listen to your community as well, is we don't build prison camps. Feedback when we were going into our initial safety initiative was, we don't want it to look like a prison. We still want it to be inviting to the community and to families. And so you have to balance that when you move forward with safety improvements, is how do you make it functional? How do you make it effective? But at the same time, you're trying to honor your community's wishes on what they want their school to be.
So do you think that you could have the power to excuse absences those days so that we're not forced to use our parent notes for that if we have concerns?
So how many parent notes do you have?
I have no idea. My child's in preschool. I don't have to worry about it, but somebody else can answer them.
So we have 5 per semester?
5.
5 per semester, is that correct?
And we have a virtual day on the 12th. Why didn't they just put it on the virtual day? It doesn't make sense. Or move the virtual day, right?
I've tried to discuss virtual day and some of the concerns that others have had about cost.
I understand that, but it seems like we already have the building open that day. Like it's open. Why would we not have done that? Or just, it seems like there was a lack of strategic planning in that.
There was a lot of strategic planning.
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. Here, and this is kind of where I just want to kind of put it in summation. There's a lot of different roads to get here. When I left the office today to come here, there was about 3 to 4 different ways I could have got here. Could have went this way, I could have went that way, I could have went this way. This was the path we chose.
Okay, but can you make absences excuse that day? That's my question.
Let me say this. I would definitely look into it, and you were
Caitlin Talley.
Kate and Tally.
Yes, sir. Yep.
I will definitely let you, I will personally call you or email you with
You got my
that.
email.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
about 4 pages.
I will.
And then I have one more question, then I'll let this gentleman go.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to know, and my group over here, we want to know, what happens if we vote no? Because we've been told and we've heard the money's going to come elsewhere. So where are you going to pull the money from if we vote no?
That's a great question. Oh, yeah, okay. So the question was, what happens if the vote is no? Well, we do have some of the appropriation back still left in the account. What we do is go back to the table with the architect and say, we don't have money to move forward in what we want to do. So we got to back up, identify the programs that we can move with, and then we have to decide if we want to move forward at this time with those programs. It would definitely be reduced or cut down. It could be delayed. It obviously will be delayed, be pushed back. But the plan is still the plan to have a centralized career and technical education center. The plan is still to provide as many opportunities for our students to be successful in the career and the technical education field as we can, because I look and I see that we've got to do something. We have to look at ways that we can help our students be more successful. We have to look for ways to help our industry stay, but also help attract. And to Mr. McDaniel's point is, if we can get more taxpayers here, if we can attract more people to stay, or we can attract that industry to come here and you've got more taxpayers, then those burdens are lessened.
But how will we keep them here if we can't afford to pay somebody $10 more an hour at a building we already have? Like, it seems to me like we're funding the rest of the country's career and technical and not Meridian City. That's what it feels like.
Well, this is Lauderdale County's career and technical program.
Yeah, they're going to be here, and then they're going to leave because we can't pay them $10 more.
Well, I hope we can.
I hope we do.
I hope we can. If you go down to our downtown or our hospitals today, you look, we got entire floors that are empty at the hospital. If you ask them why that floor is empty, it's because they can't find nurses. We do. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I just had one question. I've heard a lot of comments tonight about security on Election Day. I've heard a lot about money. Everybody's concerned about money.
True.
My question simply is, why didn't we wait 34 days when there's a general election? Wouldn't be any problem on school campus because there's a voting place. Why wasn't this bond issue tacked on to that general election? That would solve all of it. You're talking about spending $40,000 for an election. It'll be more than that. We all know that.
I don't.
Don't you think that $40,000 could have been spent at Clarkdale on the plumbing problem? That's my question.
Sure. And that's one of the big questions we get. Why are we having an early election? And I want to go back to two main points. So when you try and decide which way we're going to move forward with this, the decision was, okay, let's listen to all the information we have, and let's make a decision on what that pathway is going to be. So with the architect. Architect says if we've got a 2025 January, where's the gentleman that asked the question? Where'd he go? Oh, I'm sorry. A January 2025, gotta stay in range, I'm sorry. January 2025 soft opening date. Dr. Kane, you have got to have this project bid out before the end of 2023. Okay. Speaking the attorney on how bonds work, because I don't know how bonds, not until you get into this process, the nitty-gritty in the granular. Dr. Kane, there's no way you will have these bonds sold prior to the end of the 2023 calendar if you wait to the end of the general election. Okay, well, why does that matter? The district is able to save on the bond interest rate if we sell the bond in series, not to exceed $10 million per sale per calendar year. So let's say we sell $6.5 million worth of bonds in 2023, before the end of the calendar year. We qualify for a lower interest rate on the bonds. And then we would sell the next portion of whatever we need in the 2024 year, again, below the 10 million threshold, obviously, which would qualify for the lower interest rate. So then we get into the question, well, what is the savings on the interest rate? Because then you say, okay, we've got an election, the cost of the election, and to be quite apparent from the very get-go, we tried to get a number from the election commission of what that election would cost. And then the only thing we could kind of go by was the Meridian School District had a bond election that was referenced earlier, and they had 5 polling sites in their special election. And so we were able to find out what that number amount was, and so we said, okay, we're going to have 4. So we were trying to deduce from their number of 5 polling sites to ours, we identified as 4, because we knew there'd be a cost. So then once we kind of estimated that cost and used $40,000, we looked at what the interest rate savings would be on the bonds sold in series. The bonds sold in series will be multiple hundreds, thousands of dollars in savings. The most conservative number the most conservative number I could obtain was $200,000. And they said, Dr. Kane, that's the most conservative number we can give you is $200,000 in interest savings. You got
Correct. So you're basically gambling with the $40,000. I mean, that is a way to look at it.
And then we got $8 million in appropriation.
But still, if we're talking about a small area, we really have to with our money. Gambling $40,000 makes me concerned about when an architect comes to you with a $20 million construction project and wants to sell you on something else. Would it be a need? Would you be prudent in looking at what they're trying to?
Oh, it have to. I mean, yeah, it would have to be. I think because, no, I understand that. And I get it. Yes, ma'am. Nothing's worth our kids' safety. Nothing's worth our kids' safety. Yes, sir. Hoorah.
Mine's just really, as a business owner, if I were to go to the bank, all right, just think, if I were to go to the bank and I said, you know, last year I lost $14 million, let me borrow some money. Do you think the bank's going to loan me money? Because according to this budget for this fiscal year, our school system's got a $14 million gap. We're going to add to it and have a $14 million gap still, according to this report from a local news agency. This is Meridian Star. I'm just reading their deal. So why would we as the bank want to fund a project when we can't afford what we have?
Yeah. Those numbers aren't exactly what we're saying. Our budget's balanced. On statute, we have to maintain a 7% fund balance over our expenditure budget annually. That's an accreditation standard. That's one of those standards that Shad White judges us on annually, and we were able to secure a clean audit recently. Yes, sir.
All right. We could sit here and we could keep on with all our rants and our questions and our wonders. We all got them, every one of us in here. I'm going to just do and start with mine. When did any of those buildings up there get tested for mold? When?
You're referring to the one where mold was identified?
That's correct, or any of them. Any of them.
Yeah. The 300 was tested right after we went back in August of 2022. The modular 1200 was tested somewhere around August 15th, August 22 of this year, the 1200 building, the 1200 modular.
And I heard you say that there was mold found.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to turn and I want to ask any parent in here, has anybody been notified that there was mold presence in this school for your kid? Okay. Some of you already know. Our child is the one with exorbitant levels of mold toxin. From where? I don't know, but I'm trying to figure it out. Nobody has told me. We spent thousands of dollars already. He went to Jackson today for another IV treatment. He takes them twice a week, and they ain't nobody called and said nothing to y'all? What's the deal, man? Our kid ain't the only one sick. We're finding out, and we can, if you will reach out to me or my wife, we have lots of ways and things we can tell you, because we have learned a whole lot out of this whole situation. That's my rant. They can go virtual during COVID. They can leave us home when it might be going to rain too much and be ice, but when we got mold present, we don't tell y'all. Let's not say anything, because it might mess up a vote that, hey, you know. But the thing is, there's other districts in here. There's people from all around. But most of this county don't know what Clarkdale's rants and problems are, such as sewage in the bathrooms, you know, kids going to other bathrooms having to use, mold being present, not being told, okay? I'm telling you, we have documentation. Our child is sick, okay? I'll come down here and try to get some answers, and I'm not calling any names, but we just wasn't told a whole lot. We kept getting pushed to the side, not wanting anybody to know, okay? Oh, we don't know. We can't say. It's all about the higher-ups. Don't want to tell anybody anything so anybody else can pass on either a lie or the truth, either one. But I'm just here voicing it, and I want everybody else to know and go out and tell the rest of this county why we're so ticked about it. And it ain't just the tax increase is wrong. And yeah, they're going to spend the money like they want to. Somebody needs to go on a vacation. I mean, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm that guy. So, really, I guess tomorrow at 1:30 we can cancel that appointment, because I done took care of what I needed to.
Anything else? It's definitely not funny.
It's not a joke.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other questions? Sir?
$40,000. Why didn't you just go on the vote at all? If election costing $40,000 next month, if you wanted to save us money, why didn't you put it on the ballot in August?
You have to advertise the election for a certain number of weeks.
You've been knowing about this for how long?
No, sir. At the end of the day, ladies, and I know the frustration. I get it. I know that this gentleman has, ma'am, I don't. I do. At the end of the day, I'm responsible. Yes, ma'am. I'm responsible. And I've tried to provide you answers tonight. I've tried to provide you answers.
I'm mainly on this bond issue.
Yes, sir.
What I got on my mind, but I don't know how to use this.
Here, you use mine.
I'm a construction worker. All right, I got a high school education. Of course, I'm an old fellow now.
Yes, sir.
But I've worked right here in Meridian my whole life. I'm a pipe fitter, plumber's what I was. And I run over half this country trying to make a living. And you see these other towns like the Golden Triangle up there. I imagine they have schools all up there now for them manufacturers and all. And why in the world Meridian can't get some decent paying jobs in here, I don't know. I went to the vocational school back in '63 or '64, and I didn't know what I was doing. Sort of like him. I went to college and didn't know what you wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do back in, but I had pretty good common sense is what I had. And I got in the plumbing steam fitters local here in Meridian. And as long as they was building houses, we was doing all right. But every 3 or 4 years, bottom fell out of building. And I'd either have to hit the road or put up with whatever I could do around here. I was a union member, and but in order to make a decent living, I worked all over the West and different places and everything. But I could have stayed here and what have you. But any of this schooling that these younger people can get now, I think it helps the whole community, because around here, things is we've always been a step behind everybody. And I don't know, I don't like the bond issue really, but some period of time we're gonna have to, all these, what the colleges has been doing these years. I mean, they got building trades out at the junior colleges now. And that's a lot of people go out there. These manufacturers, they come in here and train. If we got a facility for them, they train the people they want to go there. And if we're ready to go, fine. But I think, I feel for the parents here with that mold and stuff and the way government, whether it be state or federal or whatever, they can mess away more money than you can shake a stick at. But I do go along with, I think it's reverting back to where building trade jobs are going to be the thing of the future. Everybody ain't wanting to go to college. And I would just, I'd like to rethink this thing now, because like I said, any opportunity to building trades program or I've got no idea what some of that stuff y'all was talking about, but that's what's going on this day and time. But I know how hard it was to make a living here in Meridian, Mississippi. And we never had there's a lot of people in this town that talk so bad about that powerhouse up there. And there's some bad feelings on it. But that's the first time I've ever seen any building trade people be able to come to Meridian and go to work. and they can talk about this and that and the other. It was a boondoggle or whatever they want to, but that power company up there is pumping electricity. It ain't just providing electricity for Meridian. Somebody's making some money off that powerhouse up there. And if we got anything, a manufacturer of any kind come in this community that we could have ready folks to go work them jobs now, that's something you better think about rather than your own self. Like I said, I'm 76 years old and I lived in Meridian my whole life. And I've managed to make a living, but it got rough sometimes around here. And then we ain't doing much better now than we done when I come through high school. So if we can get some people trained and get somebody interested in Meridian, you see all the other people doing it, all other communities, a lot of them. I mean, we used to be the second biggest town in Mississippi. And here we are. We're going to keep fooling around here, and Enterprise and Equipment's going to catch up with us. So, but it needs some thinking. I mean, everybody vote the way they want to. But
thank you, sir.
All right.
See if that works.
You know, people want to be heard and feel as though you're receptive to what we're saying. And I have to say, just like listen to that gentleman and his son, you know, deciding to address Clarkdale at this moment. I mean, you already had a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. You know, like to do it here in this moment is not appropriate. Like, they deserve one-on-one conversations and to be made a priority. And it's when you're focusing on this and we're all looking at it and seeing kids that are hurting and suffering, you do see that's, how are we supposed to believe that you want the best for the kids? Because that just doesn't look that way. And if you have someone that's managing this construction project and it's going to take over 2 years to do the repairs here, and I mean, frankly, my opinion was that I heard a lot of reasons that were given, but I know how construction works, and if you wanted it mobilized and fixed, it would be done, because you kind of put them on a timeline. Yes, there's material delays and things of that nature, but I'm kind of fearful that you're being maybe guided or influenced too much by the architect or the construction company or the, you know, whoever else it is, you know, these other policies or procedures. It's influencing your program. Like this gentleman was saying about, we need tradespeople. And when I look at this and I look at these photos, where's the welding shop? Where is that in that photo captured there? I mean, you've clearly paid money for these. Okay, but what I mostly see represented is like you would be in a business. You know,
fully populated with equipment. I mean, we don't even, this is just computer generated.
Right, but I feel like they're all really ideas. And the other question, one of the questions that I did have was on your Q&A, they asked about homeschool students. Can homeschool students and private school students attend if there are available seats? And you said, yes, our federal funding, okay, so federal funding, what does that mean for the oversight of the program overall? How much influence, how much money was given? Because I asked the question earlier, but I don't think you really addressed it. I think you kind of talked about it. But one other thing, on that same Q&A, it said that they are not going to have any seats unfilled. You're not going to leave any seats unfilled. It's going to be a priority to put students in those seats. Okay, so, and I asked this question on WTOK's little live time, but I noticed they didn't select this question. After you filled the seats with anyone from Meridian High School or anyone from the private schools or anyone that's homeschooled, if there are still available seats, will post-high school students be given the opportunity to attend? Because you mentioned the coffee shop and the industry members having access to the coffee shop, and what I've heard from these parents here, especially in related to the day of voting and security for their kids, how is this facility going to be secured and distinguishable between students and adults fluctuating in and out of there? So that's all I.
All right, let me, you know, you ask a fellow 2 or 3 questions, we forget, forget 1 or 2. All right, so let's talk about the federal funding. So we receive federal funding from Carl D. Perkins, and what that funds for us now locally is 3 student services teachers that services our 4 high schools, and they help the ones who are here know that Blair Miles is that person. It is supposed to fund equipment as well, but we do not get enough allotment to actually go into equipment. So that's all the federal funding we get, is to basically.
Put us under federal guidelines, like are they going to?
Yes, there are some federal.
Requirements, because you have federal funding.
Right.
And so the end of your question says, we must not leave seats open. That could result in connections to local industry and business. So would their employees be sitting alongside our high school kids?
No, so let me address the federal funding.
I mean, that's
In the federal, sure, I understand. The federal funding dictates that we offer and provide national certifications to our students. For example, in construction, we talked about construction, we need to provide the National Center for Construction Education Research national certification. It also dictates that we serve underprivileged children, meaning so those with special needs. That's why those teachers are hired, the Blair Miles of Clarkdale. That's why she's hired, to actually meet some special needs students who go into our career technical programs. Because not only, we're also held accountable on those national certifications, but we're also held accountable in CTE to make sure that they pass their academic courses as well. That's what the federal funding dictates that we do. And by the way, the graduation rate is 98% for students who go into career technical education programs. So that's what the federal funding dictates that we do.
And how much is that?
That is the salary of basically 3 teachers. Really, it's half the salary of of 3 teachers. So that's about $75,000.
Is that money over and above the $8 million and the $12 million?
That's what we get every year to fund those teachers.
That's federal money you already get?
That we already get to fund those teachers, that we already have, yes. So the other question was about security. Yes.
So from this $75,000, you will be using the programming that is expressed in Perkins 5.
Yes, for those things that I told you that we're required to offer, yeah. The national certifications, the serving underprivileged students in work-based learning. I think I might have left work-based learning out of that plan.
Right, but like I said earlier, the performance standards, have those been approved?
Yes, those are approved.
They have been approved?
Yes.
State level?
Yes.
Can you tell me where I can find that in the legislature on the Mississippi Department of Education?
Perkins 5. Go to the Department of Education and do a search on there for Perkins 5 regulations.
The approved performance standards from the state, because it's a state and federal partnership.
Right.
The approved performance standards.
Sure. I can't tell you. I'm just telling you to Google the Mississippi Department of Education website and Perkins 5 standards, and you will find them on the website. But if you can't, call me.
It says that they've been approved.
Yes, they are approved.
Okay, I'm going to look for it.
Okay. I'll be glad to provide it to you as well. Security, I think security was one of the issues. Secure in the building itself. Okay, so we will have a man trap, so to speak. I hate to use that term, but students will come in from the side of the building, and as we mentioned, you know, there's only going to be one access into the building. The front side of it is going to be security. It's going to be a public area, but there's going to be security to keep from getting back to the back programs. But I think the question was really more about adults being our programs. There's actually a situation in Neshoba County where they're doing that. They're offering the same class, a machining class, for both post-secondary and secondary. Honestly, I don't know if we're there yet. I wouldn't feel comfortable right now with having a 30, 40-year-old in the same class with 18-year-olds.
But is that a possibility?
So in this welding class, I've been talking to Fairbanks Scales, okay, for example. They want to use our facilities for training for their facility. They will use it after hours. They will use it at night, and we're very accustomed to doing night classes in career technical education. But right now, I just don't think it's wise that we mix, like I said, 40, 50 years olds with 17 and 18-year-olds. That's just not wise.
No, and see, you're coming to us as taxpayers, and you're talking about the students. But if in your mind, you could see a potential for a student to be a post-high school individual, that changes the whole scene for everyone, the entire scene.
That's one thing there now. You've got high school, this is mainly high school stuff.
Yes, the programming is high school.
MCC and the rest of them but this will get you started.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people forgot how to work nowadays. They don't know a screwdriver and a pair of pliers can do something.
You're right. You're right.
High school, I mean, I got in high school and I could make a dadgum dress just about. Now, you know, and you see these high school students, some of them now, I reckon it sounds like a mess, but that's the way it was back then. But you learned a lot of things to do common things that you don't get nowadays. You can't work on your cars nowadays. But some of them programs there is going to tell you how to get started on
right.
Working on them maybe. But I mean, these are high school students that'll get them headed some way and they can actually put hands on something and create something. I mean, we've got so far, all this COVID and mess, I mean, they're sitting in front of that computer all day long and they ain't learning how to do nothing constructive. I mean, something breaks down there, y'all get back to farms and stuff. I mean, something broke down on the farm, you learn how to fix it. Everybody had, most of them had common sense back then. They could do common things.
And if you don't mind, let me speak to your point there a minute. From my observation at 9 years at Ross Collins, and by the way, I love my Clarkdale students that came to Ross Collins. My favorite day at Ross Collins was when all the 4 county schools would come and they were playing football against one another. Boy, we got after it. We did all kind of talking in the hallways. But anyway, I hated the fact that we turned down so many county students to be in some of these skilled trade programs. There were hundreds over the 9 years that I was there. And look, these kids, students, come from farms who know how to do things. They would have really benefited from the automotive techs, the collision repair, the construction programs, that they would have really benefited. But we're missing a mark here in this county. We're missing a mark reaching our county students with some of this career technical programming.
But here's the thing, if we're missing the mark, then can you, if you're going to request money, come at us, you need some more teachers for that CTE at Ross Collins? Like, let's do that.
Now, Ross Collins is at capacity. So it's a capacity issue at Ross Collins.
You're operating in a vacuum. If you believe that all of these taxpayers would be on board with a post-high school individual commingling with their child, you are mistaken.
Well, we've already said that's not going to be the case.
You said that you don't think we're ready for that yet.
That's correct.
But that tells me that it is something that has been considered. Is that correct or incorrect?
Well, Neshoba County is doing it now. We can't take it off the table completely.
Okay,
now, the safety and security of our students come first, and if there's ever a safety or security issue, we will not do it.
Okay, but once you've implemented the program, just like this gentleman over here, was not even told about the mold in the classroom and you tested it, how are we supposed to trust that you're going to tell us when there's an incident after you have decided to integrate high school students with adults that are over the age of 18? How are we supposed to trust?
I think you're taking a point that is not any direction that we're going. I don't know why you keep pushing that. It's not
because,
something that we're going to do now. It is something we'll leave on the table.
I'm having to dig out from you your direction and your big picture, because just like on the last meeting, you messed up and gave me your cheat sheet right here, okay?
I didn't mess up. That's all factual information.
I was able to use the links, and I started going through all the Senate bills, all the House bills, all the acts. But yet you're pitching it to us as if it's organic, as if this was developed just for our kids here in Lauderdale County, and that is grossly misleading. Just like if you would ever consider at any point adults commingling with children in this CTE center, you need to be upfront with that.
I am. I have told you exactly
because I literally pulled it out of you. I've been pulling all of this information out of y'all since I found out about this 2 weeks ago. Because I have seen stuff go on in the world that we are not in agreement with, and it happens despite the fact that we're not in agreement with it. And it's because adults have objectives of things, and they're not transparent. So that's why when this came up, and by the way, at first I have to say, I thought a lot of y'all for coming out and taking the hard questions, but is this required by law for you to come out and do these discussion nights? It's not. For a bond?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, you've done the research.
Okay, because when I looked on the Department of Education's website, it was stating that...
What programs do you think we should offer for students since you've done the research?
What kind of
programs do you think we should offer if we shouldn't offer the ones we're doing?
If you were to give me this, I promise you I'd come up with a better plan. Because you just saw in 2 weeks what I've researched and looked at. So believe me, if I had the amount of time that you did, I would come up with a stellar program.
I need you on my advisory. Would you be willing to be on my advisory committee?
If you want to put me on the spot like that,
I would love to. I'd love to have you on my advisory committee.
Honestly, you need to be transparent. If there are any big visions, any considerations that you've had, you need to explain it. And, if this is guided by federal funding and they come out and say CTE programs must have adults opportunities, how are you going to come against that and say no if it's funded by that? How will you be able to, you see what I'm saying? How will these parents have a voice to say no?
Like any other decision in education, take what's given to you at that very moment and make the decision that's in the best interest of our children as a whole. That's what we have to do.
I think what they're worried about is they're not federally funded. I think they're saying that with the federal funding, in today's world, everything's woke.
Right.
With the federal funding, does it come down that we're going to have to go by the guidelines that may come down and say, everybody that a 40-year-old man can identify as a 6-year-old girl and then use that bathroom because that's today's mentality. It's political correctness, and that's just the way everything gets rammed down everybody's throat. I think that's what everybody's kind of worried about. Or would y'all use common sense and say, no?
Oh, there's no doubt.
You're a 40-year-old man.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And I'm pretty sure that's what you're saying, but I think that's just what everybody's kind of worried about.
The federal funding, like I said, I told you the things that it required us to do, those particular things. Outside of that, federal funding doesn't get that specific, about what equipment we have to use, all of that kind of stuff. It's a bigger global picture now when it comes down to the Department of Education. They get a little more specific because it's more localized, it's a curriculum that they're writing, that sort of thing. So we're not dictated by the government to completely do exactly. Like I said, there's autonomy in these programs to be able to offer things specifically that our local industry needs. We have standards that we have to teach that are overall big standards, but the way we teach those standards, we can choose how that happens. Yeah.
Make sure that one works.
Can you hear me in the back? We haven't been able to hear a lot. Dr. McCain, I want you to know I'm Dr. Pam Compton, and I've been in your shoes before, traveled many situations that we're discussing tonight. And from the very beginning, I have been concerned as a grandmother whose grandson finished in 2022, and here at Clarkdale, and we are very proud of that fact, and we have excellent teachers and administrators, but we have heard so many stories about this campus and the ineffective maintenance of this campus, where we hear all these other stories about 3 other campuses. And it's very discouraging from a grandparent standpoint, and I know it is from a parent standpoint. Sure. So I am all for the CTE programs. I think it's very beneficial to our young people, and they need that opportunity. But my concern is, and many others who are grandparents, sure, is the lack of communication, the lack of transparency, you call it. Our community is booming. We're having new families move in all the time, mainly for this school. Yeah. And that's something that we're proud of. And I've only been here 30 years, but hey, I'm proud of it. Yes, and so it bothers us that, like the gentleman told tonight about the mold, we heard stories about the mold. And then someone would say, oh no, there's no mold down there. But we knew better because several of us come to read with the 3rd graders, right, sometimes during the week, and we can see things that are going on. So it hurts me, it bothers me that as parents, grandparents, that we have not been told the whole truth about all this. We so appreciate your being here tonight. But you know, it would have been wonderful to have this meeting back in 2022. There would be a lot more people here because all of us were concerned at what happened in our school. But we didn't hear from you. We didn't hear from you first of 23. And from a standpoint of your position, your team's position, the school board's position, we deserve better than that.
Sure.
And that's all. Thank you.
And I thank you for those comments. And we acknowledged the fact, I think, at our last school board that we needed to have more open dialogue, we needed to have more communication, we needed to have it more frequently. And our board, answered, we can do better, and we can. And our commitment is to try to do better, continuously try to do better at what we do. Well, obviously there's circumstances, and we're working through those circumstances. I'm glad we have some hard dates in place that we've been told that we're moving forward with these projects and what we see coming to fruition. But until it's done, we're still not there yet. We still got to move forward. We still got to communicate with you guys about those updates. We have those updates at our meetings, but those always don't permeate to the public, as she mentioned. So we'll do a better job in communicating with you about what's happening in the boardroom and how it translates to your campus and to your schools moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
I actually love the idea of this program for this area. I was able to tour Ross Collins through a leadership program I was part of. I was very impressed, and I do see the value it would add to this area. Had my child's school not been what I feel neglected, you would have got a yes from me. So going on to my question, you said we were doing the special election early to save interest, but could we not have done 10 million in January of next year and then 10 million in May to save the same interest and save 40 grand?
She asked if we couldn't have done the bond sale in 24 altogether and saved the interest rate. And I think the issue there is it's up to 12.5 million. So if we're trying to get those done by our 25 date, and we do have to eclipse 10 million, we would lose the savings on the interest rate. So by being able to sell them on the front end, like before the end of 23, in a smaller amount, and then a smaller amount here, up to 12.5, then we're able to save it. If we would have to do it all within the 24 calendar year and we exceed 10 million, if it goes there, then we would lose the interest savings.
And then you said that October 31st, it'll open up for bidding to fix the tornado damage. Does that mean y'all won the argument with the insurance company? Because you said it was been so delayed because you've been arguing with the insurance company. So we won the argument? We are in that process. As we talked with our architect the other night about the insurance is willing to work with us. So they came here. We had another walkthrough. And they say, yes, we agree to that. And so now they were waiting on receiving those plans to, as you say, agree to what we did. Because we verbally got agreement here from the adjuster, from the national adjuster that came and showed up. So when we said, this is what we see, this is what we need to do, this is what the standard needs to go up to, everybody left in agreement that day, and they've been waiting on the architect to provide the plans. Okay. And then one last question. You mentioned all like kind of recent improvements. Did all those improvements get paid for by the budget, or was some of it COVID, was some of it insurance, some of it?
Yes, a combination of all of the above. So you've had a lot of those that are budgeted. The budget process is at the school level. It's also at the director level. So we reach out to schools to help them build their budget on items that they need to be repaired, improvements that they want to make. Then the director also has a list of improvements that need to be made on the campuses, and they're budgeted, and we work that into the budget. And then any type of outside grants that we're able to secure, like we talked about the security upgrades, a lot of that's coming from the grants. But any other funding source, it's a combination of all three to answer this question.
I thought I'd read like the improvement to the 300 building and then the new drive-through. I thought I'd read that was COVID money to
No, ma'am, that was not COVID money.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I know I mentioned that I wrote you an email with a long list of concerns, and as you know, in that email, I CC'd about 10 other people around the State Board of Education and so forth. And I didn't get a response from a single one of those people, which is baffling. I got a response from you, and it was the same response that about 3 or 4 other parents got, copied, pasted, sent, but my name edited in. Mm-hmm. That's painful as a parent, mm-hmm. because my concerns were real, and my husband can tell you that I took about 2 hours to write that email. Yeah. But also, if it took this building to get us here today, do we need to wait for another this to address our concerns, or do we have someone that's a representative of Clarkdale that we can reach out to that is on the board or that is local that can get those responses? Because I reached out to everybody I could find on Google I don't know anybody around this city, but I was asking everybody who I could email, and I emailed every last one of them, and not a single response came in.
Yeah. I would say that anytime as a parent that you have a concern, we all, especially if it's let's say if it's at the classroom level, always want you to start with the teacher. If it's a teacher classroom issue, Correct. But then if there's no resolution at the classroom level, or it's not a classroom level, we always ask you to go to the building level administration to have a conversation, to share those concerns. And then those concerns come up our way.
It's not their fault either, though.
No, it's not their fault. No fault.
Our group decided that it's not on them as parents. We wanted to go straight to you because the neglect isn't on the staff. The neglect is on the school board.
Yes.
And so we're frustrated because we don't even know who to email without getting a copy and pasted email sent back. I was baffled at that.
Well, there was about 6 that I got all at one time, and there were, yes, ma'am, and there were several questions there, and a lot of them related to safety. So the response was heavily geared towards safety and what we do, knowing that we're going to have this coming up tonight.
And I don't feel any better leaving tonight at 9 o'clock. I've been here for 3 hours waiting on you to secure that, knowing that I could send my child to school next week, and I'm leaving still feeling unsecure, still feeling like I can't send her to school. And that's not fair. My daughter's 4 years old, you know. But aside from that, she was asking too, like, you've tested a few places in the school for mold. Are you going to test the whole school?
So are we going to test the whole school? Our mitigation policy, which is the same all over the county, is if we become a parent of something, if it's something's identified or brought to our attention, we immediately go into the mitigation standard. You would start with there. So if there's a classroom issue, the classroom teacher would need to report that. We've encouraged them. If anything's seen, report it to their administration. Administration then can either contact us or contact our director of operations with a work order that comes in and it's investigated. If it needs to be mitigated further, then they put in the request to mitigate it as we've mitigated all others.
So do we have a Clarkdale representative on the board?
Yes.
Who is it?
Mr. Dusty Culpepper represents Clarkdale.
Okay, so I CC'd you in my email also, but I didn't get a response. And I'm just really confused at that. It makes me feel I'm not local. I don't know anybody else. I don't know anybody to reach out to. And quite frankly, it breaks my heart as a parent that I love this school so much, and I just moved here 5 years ago. We just moved to Clarkdale. We bought a house to be in Clarkdale School District, and it hurts my heart that I cried. I was upset over these things because my school that I came from, my city had 2 school shootings, right? I had concerns, and I expressed them to multitudes of people. It wasn't to the principal, it wasn't to Ms. Culpepper, it wasn't to any, it was to the board, and I needed to know, and I needed some sort of pat on the back and let me know that it's gonna be okay, and I wasn't even given a response from what you're saying is the representative of Clarkdale, and I'm just confused.
Well, the response falls on me, because you did send the message to me, and then if there are additional issues that need to be addressed, then they're addressed to the board. That's the chain of command.
Thank you.
I've been in Meridian for a long time, as far as, school-age kids. How is our board, is it appointed, is it an elected position? I've never seen anything about how our boards decide.
It's an elected position, 5-year terms.
When is that election?
Staggered, they're not all together, so it would be dependent on the board position, on the.
Hi, I'm Kim Beck. I'm your PTO president, and I've been in contact with most of the majority of the parents, staff, administration, you yourself, and I've taken in a lot of concerns. And my children could be in any school district in this county. They could be. I can afford to homeschool them. I can afford to send them to private school. We love this school. We love the staff. We came to this school because it's an A school, and that's what we hear. We have had all the concerns with the 300 building. We're finally getting information on that, which we thank you. I mean, I hate that it took getting the CTE meetings and all of this for everything to really get kicked off for us to actually get information. I'm literally shaking because it's It's been a lot. And I know it's been a lot for every single parent in here, and for the staff who day in and day out care for our babies just as much as we do. I want to thank all of y'all for coming tonight and showing your real support. But as far as the mold goes, and I know we keep bringing this up because it's a big issue. We had the environmental testing, the air quality testing. Was there any additional testing as far as samples pulled from in the ceilings, especially in the trailers where we know there were older trailers? We refinished the ceilings, we scraped them. Was there any of that was taken off and actually tested for mold within those ceilings?
Yes, so they did the pre-test, they did a post-test, and a following post-test to come, and I don't want to misspeak, it's either this week or the first of next week.
Okay, and will this information be available to the parents? And in addition to that, we have a child that is sick. If we have other parents that contact their teacher, their PTO, whoever it may be, will there be additional sample testing, not just air quality testing? Because as we know, we live in the South.
True.
And there is humidity, water, everything else. Mold, while it may start small, it can grow.
Right.
So,
Porous material.
do we have recommendations as far as how often we should be having sample testings, not just the air testing?
It's a great question. What is the I don't know, you'd say requirements, or what is the
Guidelines, requirements, mandates.
And this is where it does get interesting, because currently there are no guidelines. And so even when we perform testing, typically testing results come back as rare, medium, or high, or excessive. Those aren't relevant to a code or a particular level, because it varies by region. And the commercial, like if you were to say, well, I want to test what the air quality is at the local gas station store here.
Probably terrible.
But there is no set standard. And so that's why our process is when we see it, we address it, because there is no set standard. There is no regulatory, there is no guideline in place. And so even when it comes back as medium, or even it comes back excessive, you're not necessarily comparing it to a comparative building necessarily that may be across town.
Right, and that's understandable. So with the air quality testing that was done, and we've had it rechecked within certain buildings, not necessarily all, like I know the cheer building, some of the tiles are missing, and I know the insulation and everything within the ceiling will need to be replaced because, you know, I mean, damage. Sure. But within all of that, because it has not been replaced at this time yet, if there was any moisture.
300 building, we're talking about?
The cheer building, the cheer gym.
Yes, mitigated.
Yeah, so we've already inspected, we had somebody go up into the attic space or whatever it's called up there. I'm sorry, I'm not like technologically speaking, but in that space, and we've looked in that space and made sure that any moisture that was in there was
I know we had a
taken care of.
well, I know we had the professional crew here in that location this past week. Scott, do you remember what day that was? Yesterday.
Oh, when the state health department came in.
I haven't seen the state health department.
I did.
Okay.
And part of the huge concern was the trailers. I spoke personally with the representative with the state health department. That is, I'm assuming we're going to have the report or something, you know, posted somewhere that we will have access to that, and the follow-up from that report of where we were told that we needed to check.
I'm trying to follow, I'm sorry.
Where upon the recommendations of the State Health Department that came out yesterday, and the recommendations that he made, when will we know that that was followed up?
As I said, I don't know of a state health department visit. If they did come, I'm unaware of it. But there were recommendations of remediation or mitigation that we've taken steps, and we're still in that step process.
Yeah, because with the trailers being older, we all know an old trailer, you know, with it being off the ground. I know that in some research myself with the crawl space, or I'm assuming that's what it's called for a trailer as well, that there is supposed to be a certain amount of slope. I think it was like 15%, is where our trailers are. Is that on an appropriate slope for the waterfall?
Yeah, I think there's recommended slopes. Obviously, you know, I don't know the slope angle, obviously at this point, but I do know that we tried to make those triage. And I hate to use that word.
And I know that it's kind of it's a per minute. You know, hey, I think I see some mildew up here. Let me, you know, see if I can clean it. Let me, you know, handle it that way. And then you kind of go through. I'm married to a Marine Corps veteran, and you know, you go through this chain of command. And I feel like, you know, some of the parents have felt disconnected because we haven't had that communication, which we now are starting to get, and we hope to continue to improve that. And I'm advocating for my child, my children, my parents, my teachers, my administration, who has done nothing but be supportive and try, but they were left in the dark. So we love our school and we want to continue to improve it. While my own child wants to be a welder, the CTE will be fantastic. However, for it to take this, for us to finally get answers hurts. Because we chose this school. We chose our home here. So it is just taking a lot to get here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have some answers tonight. Obviously, we're not all leaving happy or satisfied with what we've heard tonight. We have tried to address questions and concerns. Our commitment to you is to have more communication from our office about what is happening in the immediate future and moving forward. That's our commitment to you. We've said that we can do better and we will do better. I'm optimistic about the timelines that we have in place to get Clarkdale made whole. Our kids deserve it. Our community deserves it. This has been an event where 2 tornadoes took away our brand new, not our brand new, but our updated building, our measures that we put in place to address some of the very needs or some of the very concerns that you shared here tonight. And I do want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for your honesty and your candid conversations. And obviously, I won't bring resolution to all tonight, but our commitment to you is to be more forthgoing with what we know, when we know it, not to rely strictly on what is discussed at the boardroom and thinking that that's disseminated. Obviously, that's not good enough. And so we need to have more conversations like this with you so you feel, and that you are in tune with what's happening and the next steps and the timelines that we're receiving as we move forward. So I do thank you for coming tonight. I do thank you for staying and asking very good questions. I really do, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We all want answers. We all want to find resolution to our issues. So thank you. Please drive home safe, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you. I will. Remind me one more time.
Kate Tally.
Tally.
Kate Tally.
Yes.
I mean, my daughter's in preschool. They don't take attendance. It's not me. It's everybody else. You know?
Tally. Gotcha.
Well, we let everybody know.
I know you took some hate in this too. You did good. I appreciate it.
Hold on. These are still on. You got it. These are still on. We just took them off of that. Right. So everybody can hear us now as we talk. All right, so Scotty Ray and Odie, we've been here with Dr. Kane at Clarkdale High School talking about the bond issue, and you know, it lasted a little while. You had a lot of questions, a lot of concerns that didn't deal with just the bond, but with the school, and just wanted to get your afterthoughts on what you think about this meeting as a whole.
You know, anytime you can come out and talk with your community, talk with your parents, listen to the concerns, it's healthy. It's healthy conversation because we need to know what they're hearing, what type stories that may be out there that may be not quite true, but we want to correct it, and where we haven't filled in that gap, we need to fill it with answers. We had candid questions tonight and concerns, legitimate concerns from parents and voters. We really wanted to update about the upgrades that have happened, the timelines that we've been provided on from the architect about moving forward with rebuilding the 300 building, the softball updates, and mitigation efforts that we've got in our modular buildings. So there was a lot of update and a lot of passion. I think we were here for over 3 hours a night because we told them up front that we wanted to make sure that every question received an answer, and if we didn't have an answer, we'd get back to them. So I think it's healthy. It was needed. It was overdue. So I do appreciate the community coming out and being involved.
And we appreciate you, taking these questions. Some of them were tough.
Sure.
But you took every one of them. You answered every one of them, and I think the community really appreciates you doing that. And I know everybody's ready to go, and I know you are too. But just remind, we'll be back on tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock for the Scotty Ray and Odie show, and then again Thursday we're going to be on again 7 o'clock Thursday morning with Dr. Kane is going to be with us. So don't forget, we'll see you the rest of this week, but Thursday morning we get to spend it with you, and
coffee.
We appreciate you having us out here and allowing us to go live and
absolutely
bring this to everybody that's watching, and see you again Thursday to get ready for the vote next Tuesday, a week from today.
Yes, sir.
So we'll see you then.
All right.
Dr. Kane, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.